Hey guys, this lesson is also 1 point perspective, but it is a little bit more advanced and challenging for those that felt that the road perspective was a little bit too easy. So you're going to start out the same way. You're going to need a ruler and you are going to need a pencil. And again, if you want to color afterward, markers or colored pencils or anything that you are using to color with. But you're going to start out by making a line in the middle of your paper. This line is called the horizon line. And then you're going to make a dot in the middle of your horizon line, which is called your vanishing point. Now, your vanishing point is super, super important because this is where all your lines that are traveling away from you are going to meet. And that's how you're drawing in your 1 point perspective. So we're gonna start out by making a road. We're gonna line up our ruler with our vanishing point, and we are going to draw a line. And then we're gonna go on the other side and line up with our vanishing point and draw a line. And we have our road. Now, we are going to draw those little lines in our road that we see. And we're gonna keep in mind that everything that is traveling away from us is getting smaller. So we're gonna start by making a line about this size. And as we get closer to our vanishing point, we're gonna keep in mind that our lines are actually gonna get shorter because that's how it looks visually when we look at anything in real life. Anything that is going far, far away from us gets smaller. So you see, as I drew my lines, I made them shorter and shorter until they met that point so that we're keeping with that 1 point perspective. So now we're going to do something that's a little bit more challenging. We are going to draw some buildings in 1 point perspective. And as long as you keep in mind the same thing that I've talked about in the beginning, which is all lines traveling away from you go to this point, you will do this successfully. So I am going to draw a curb, I think. Or a little separation from the road to the sidewalk that we're gonna draw. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the road. I'm just gonna line up my point with my ruler and I'm gonna draw a line. And again, line my point up with my ruler. And draw my line, okay? And that's gonna give us a little separation for our, I guess, curb. And then I'm gonna make a sidewalk, I think. So again, I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm coming out a little bit wider. Lining up my point every time, trying to be very precise. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna draw my lines for my sidewalk. So I'm just gonna take my ruler and go straight across and then use that to draw my lines. And again, as you're doing this, you're going to want to make your concrete blocks smaller as they travel away from you. Okay, so I have my sidewalk in place. Now I'm going to start drawing my buildings. So to start drawing buildings, we are going to go ahead and draw one straight line on this side all the way to maybe here, if we want to have a semi-tall building. So you want to take your ruler and you want to line your ruler up with the little edge of your sidewalk here so that they're touching, because I want my buildings close to my sidewalk. And I'm going to make sure that my ruler is nice and straight so my buildings are not crooked. And then I'm going to draw my line to about there, because that's how tall I want my buildings. It doesn't really matter. You could have drawn it up to here and your building would have just been a little bit shorter. And I'm going to show you how to stagger your buildings as you go so that not all your buildings are the same height. So this first building is going to be facing us. So we are going to want to make a rectangle because this is going to be the front of our building. And you might not be able to see it right now. It might not make total sense on how this is going to come together, but I promise that it will in the end. So I'm just making a rectangle. Okay, so this is the front of our building. Now we have our horizon line going through our building now, and we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and erase this part of the horizon line because we would not be able to see that in real life if we were looking at our building. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make a line of buildings going down towards our vanishing point, as if it was like a little shops or something on a street or businesses. So what we're going to do to make our first building is we are going to line up our top corner with our vanishing point. And we are going to draw a line, but we're going to stop pretty quickly afterward because I want to make a couple more buildings going down, and I don't want them to be all the same size. If we wanted to make all the buildings the same size, we could have drawn this line all the way straight down to the vanishing point, and then we could have just drawn straight lines down and they would have been the same size. But I don't think that's interesting enough. So we're going to cap our building off right here. So we're just going to take a straight line down. Now, we do not have to draw a line for the bottom because our sidewalk is acting for the line of the bottom of the building, and that's why I wanted to make our buildings flush with the sidewalk, because it makes it a lot easier. And then we're going to erase our horizon line there. So we have our first building. So now what I'm going to do is the same exact thing with the other buildings. However, we aren't going to be drawing the flat front part of the building because we wouldn't see the front of these buildings looking in this perspective. So we're just going to, for our next building, we're going to use this line because I want all my buildings to be touching. And I want this building to be taller, so I'm going to draw a line up a little bit more, and I'm going to do the same exact thing I just did with this. Line it up and draw the line. And then draw a straight line down. And I actually lied a little bit. We are going to see a little bit of this building because it's taller than our initial building, because this doesn't really make sense right the way we have it now. So we are just going to draw a straight line from here. And I'll decide that this building is going to be a little bit shorter than this building. Okay, so you can see now we have two buildings along our street line, erasing the horizon line as we go. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna continue down the way, drawing buildings until I reach my vanishing point. Okay, so now we have a nice row of buildings, and I'm gonna go ahead and erase this horizon line that's running through all of my buildings, because again, we do not need to see that. Okay, and now we have a nice street scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cap off my last building here by drawing a line, and I'm going to erase that little peak that's coming out. So it's finished. And then you can really add whatever you want to your buildings. Now, if you draw on this side of the building, say you want to draw windows or something, you want to make sure that you're always drawing to that vanishing point, because if you draw them straight like this, you're not drawing in one point perspective. So I'm going to show you an example of how to draw a window, and I'm going to pick this building to draw a window on. So I'm going to go ahead and decide where I want my window to be, and I want it to be at the top of the building. So I'm going to draw my first line, keeping in mind that I'm lining my ruler up with that vanishing point, and I'm going to draw my line. Now I'll draw the straight lines down. And then I'm going to line my bottom line up with my vanishing point and draw, and then erase the excess lines on the bottom that I don't need. And now I have a line, window in one point perspective. Then I can add window panes if I want. So I'll just draw straight lines. And then because I have to, again, draw a straight line that's traveling away from me, I'm going to line it up with the vanishing point and draw the line. And now I have windows on my building. Now, the only exception for lining up your lines with the vanishing point is on this building that is front facing here, this part of the building. Because this part of the building is actually not traveling away from me, I can go ahead and just draw straight lines on this. So if I was to draw a door onto this building, I could just use my ruler and draw straight lines. And I have a door, and then I could add windows or whatever I wanted to. So that's pretty much it. Now, if you wanted to do a line of buildings on this other side, I think that would complete this drawing very nicely, and you do it exactly the same way. Okay, so you can see that adding buildings on the other side really kind of completes the look of the piece, and just make sure that you erase your horizon line. It's running through, and then at the very end, you want to erase that dot. And then you have a completed scene, a city drawn in 1-point perspective. And then you can add all of the little details that you want to add to make it look unique, and then color it if you want to. This takes some time, so if you don't color it, I'm not going to be upset about that. But do take some time to add some detail to your buildings and make it look unique to yourself. This is a little bit challenging, and a few things that you need to remember are that if your buildings go taller than the buildings in front of it, that you want to cap them off so that you see the little front facing part peeking up over. And also all of your lines, this is the most important part, are traveling down to that vanishing point. Otherwise you're not drawing in 1-point perspective. So this is a little bit more challenging than just drawing the road itself, but also if you can master this, you're going to be able to do a lot more drawing in 1-point perspective, and then moving on to 2-point perspective after that. I'm really excited to see what you guys make, and make sure to upload to Canvas when you're done.